Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, agents. I am Mountie Carl, and I am your guide today to everything toughness. We're going to explain how toughness is calculated and how you can boost your toughness stats. This is the Toughness Masterclass right here on Gun Brothers Gaming. Let's get started. Now, the first thing I know what you're thinking is, you're thinking, Mountie Carl, those toughness stats are absolutely terrible. How are you going to teach us about toughness when you have stats like that? Well, these are actually older stats. This was done probably about a month ago, and I wanted to use it as kind of to show you where I was when 1.2 dropped, because this is where I was at 253,000 DPS, 344 toughness, and 18,000 skill power. So let's go ahead and fast forward to the future, and I'm going to kind of show you how I've rearranged everything. Alright, so here are my current stats. Let's go ahead and bring up a side-by-side, and I want to just show you that I have increased my stamina by only 700 stamina points and decreased my firearms by about 600, and my skill power pretty much stayed the same. So even doing this, you'll notice that there's a significant rise in my toughness and not very much of a decrease in my firearms or my electronics points. So let's go ahead and bring up the formula really quick, and I'll explain how I did it. The basic formula for calculating toughness is fairly easy. It's simply health divided by 1 minus your damage mitigation percentage. For this example, we'll be using 75% since that is currently the max and where our damage mitigation is right now. This part might be boring, but to truly understand the logistics of how to build a tank build, you should understand the formula and why it's important to have the max armor first. Your armor is like your multiplier, but to the 75% stat, which is equal to 5354 armor points. The more armor you have, the more that multiplier affects how tough you are. Think of your armor as a point value for toughness. So for every armor point, you get about 65 points of toughness. As the damage mitigation percentage goes down, the points you get per armor point go down as well, effectively making them worth less toughness. So unless you max out your armor stat at 75, you're kind of cheating yourself out of getting the maximum amount of toughness you can potentially get. This is most noticeable since the damage mitigation works on your health. If you have 75% and you get hit by the bullet, you effectively only take 25 points of damage. If you have 50% damage mitigation, you're taking 50% of damage. And the more damage you take without max mitigation compounds with each bullet hit, making you die twice as fast as if you had the max damage mitigation. Now, the first thing we want to ensure is that our armor is maxed. To do this, you either need to get very lucky or you need to recalibrate. There are 3 main pieces that you need to have the max armor you can get: the vest, the knee pads, and the backpack. To find out how much you need, take your mask, holster, and gloves and add them together. For my character, this adds up to 1556 armor. Since all the stats max out at the same number for electronics, stamina, and firearms across all gear pieces for the same score, we can worry about these as a secondary stat that we need. Now that we have the minimum armor, which is the armor on our smallest gear pieces, let's go ahead and add the backpack and knee pads to that number, giving us a total of 3734. Since the max number we want is 5354, we know that we need the remaining armor to add up to 1620. So the reason why we look at the vest for the armor recalibration is because the vest has the highest armor rating roll that we can get. As it should be. It's a vest, it's an armor piece. Hopefully you have stamina in the slot, or at least a higher firearms rating. The higher the number, the better, but if not, you can keep getting vests and keep trying to make it work. But really what you want is a high stamina or a high armor rating, that way you can re-roll one of those other ones. So the vest is inconsequential though, unless it has a high value for armor and stamina, and we can recalibrate one or the other if necessary. Once you have the number where you want it, which is of course 5354, before, now you can go and work on building your stamina, because stamina is going to increase our health, therefore adding to the multiplier, which is our toughness. If you need more than what you get on your vest piece, you can always roll an armor bonus on your knee pads or backpack as well, and they will give you about the same. You're looking at probably 1,000 to 1,100 on the backpack or the knee pads. What you want is really both is going to hit that number. So you're going to probably keep rolling both of those and getting the armor. But if you have armor on it already, you're already halfway there, and you can go ahead and focus on the stamina portion on it. You should only have to recalibrate a piece of gear 3 or 4 times to get the highest stat for the stamina. Now, I would say you can stop recalibrating if you're within 20 points, 30 points of the max gear number, as that the increase in the stat after that isn't really going to be worth the credits to keep recalibrating it. Now, this isn't going to happen all at once, so how I have built my character and my tank is piece by piece, like some sort of puzzle. When I get a new piece of gear, I look at it side by side with the one that I have equipped. I see if it has better armor, I see if it has better stamina, if I'm not looking at the stamina armor rating, and then I look at the stamina. These two stats are all I look at initially and look for the most potential of it being a replacement for another piece. Now, I had a guy post a comment about me running 4 blind pieces earlier this week or sometime last week, and me not knowing how to play the game. Now, I can honestly say that perks for gear sets are less important than your base stats for the tank build. I run 4 pieces of blind because with those and 2 final measure, you're pretty much protected from any type of status effect damaging you. This is my main build, which I try to keep as balanced as possible. It's not a tank build. So my tank build isn't running 4 blind. My tank build is running 4 tacticians pieces, and I'm currently at 629,000 toughness, which allows me to survive a lot of damage, even from the shotgunners. So to Mr. I don't know what I'm doing, I pretty much know exactly what I'm doing. So when I'm rolling gear pieces and stuff, I know what I'm talking about because I've worked at it pretty much the entire game since the first came out. So swapping out pieces as you get them, and even though they can be mismatched, building your toughness using the best possible gear and not the gear sets because they go together is key. Eventually you will get the one piece that puts you over the top and builds your set to get the bonuses. But running 2 pieces of Lone Star, 1 Striker, 1 Sentry, 2 Nomad pieces with 600,000 toughness is going to help you out a lot more than running 4 pieces of Sentry and 300,000 toughness. It all depends on the goal you're setting for yourself, and if you're watching this video, you want that toughness stat as high as possible, and this is how you do it. Now, you don't have to agree with me because there are always trade-offs, but you can always swap out those pieces when you get a set piece and it's better than one of your other pieces and you want to run that, and it's the perfect fit to go into your current wearable gear set without stopping your toughness down. You will eventually get to that point where you can piece together 4 pieces of one gear set, or 2 pieces of 3 different gear sets, or 3 and 3, whatever you want to build. You will eventually get there by just piecing it together. But to start out, just go ahead and look for random pieces. They don't have to be gear set pieces. You could put a yellow in there for all I care. At this point, all we're doing is trying to get that toughness up and build you a tank build as high as possible, and this is really how you do it. Now, we just explained to you how armor works and why it's the most important factor, and with the stamina being second, a very close second, if you want the best possible tank build, adding a bit of exotic damage resilience is the key, because this will make it so you can survive just about anything the game can throw at you in terms of damage. Now, you're going to be stopping flame damage, you're going to be stopping grenade damage, you're going to be stopping sticky bomb damage. All of these damages will be stopped by having exotic damage resilience and having a high toughness. So that's really the key to where you want to be. So lastly, we're going to go ahead and finish the build off with gear mods. Now, gear mods are important because it's going to round out your build. You can swap them in and out based on what you need. I would go ahead and put a lot of stuff into crafting materials because these are what you're going to want. You're going to want electronics and you're going to want fabric to make these. And my suggestion is that you roll a stamina mod if you want to try and get your toughness up, or roll a firearms mod because you already have a certain level of toughness. I roll a combination of both because I'm trying to be balanced here, but on my tank character, I roll complete stamina. My DPS is somewhere around 100,000 to 120 depending on the weapon, and that's high enough for me, at least with 629,000. It goes through the underground and absolutely wrecks things, so in the challenge mode and stuff like that. So I'm not really concerned about that kind of level of stamina and stuff like that, or firearms, or increasing my DPS. And my skill power is pretty high on my tank as well, but not super high. It's not 45,000 high. So I'm really just focused on toughness on that tank build, and everything else just kind of comes alongside of it. Now, this is the equivalent to rolling a mod with 2 stats if you go with my suggested skill power build, which is why you see my main here has 1137 and a high skill power. Now, this is actually a 1.2 build that I built before the 1.3 patch came out. Once 1.3 patch came out, I was able to go ahead and do a lot more crafting. Now my skill power is at 23,000 and my electronics are still at 1137. So what this does, I would aim for getting stamina or firearms mods that have 1200 to 1600 skill power. This is the equivalent to rolling a mod with 2 stats. So 150 stamina and 1400 skill power is roughly the equivalent of like rolling a 140 electronics on it as well. This is how, even at 1137, I've gone from 1.2, where I had 17,000 skill power, to having 23,000 skill power and still being at 1137. Using mods to build skill power allows you to free up points and put points into other areas and focus on toughness and primary DPS. So go ahead and do that. You can build up your toughness. There's not really a secondary stat that really builds up your toughness, except for maybe health. There's maybe a health stat that's in there, but I would focus on skill power because that's what you want. You want to kind of build that up. So originally in my toughness talk prior to 1.2, that I actually recorded this before 1.2, and now I'm finishing it after 1.3 because I wanted to make sure that I had the most up-to-date information. I had mod slots being the 3rd most important piece that you needed to roll and recalibrate. But since 1.3 makes them standard, it allows you the freedom to roll something else and make your build even better. So that's my time. It takes a lot of recalibrating, a lot of credits, and a lot of patience to make the perfect tank build. I am still working on mine, and although I'm up to 629,000, my goal is to hit over 700,000 toughness, and with some of the new 268 gear, you can definitely do it, and eventually I will get there so I can survive almost anything the game can throw at me. So if you found this video helpful or encouraging, please drop a like on this video, as it helps us to keep making these great videos like this and spend time on a much more in-depth guide like this is. So that's what we're really striving to do, is we like to do a lot of these guides and stuff just to kind of help you guys out, making it so that I can share my knowledge with you, and not just my rants and my raves about rogues in the Dark Zone, because that's not really what I want to do, is share that information with you. I want to share this information and make you better, make you tougher, make you stronger. Whatever I can do to help you out, that's what I want to do. I want to share the information that I have. Even at 468, I would say 450 is the minimum toughness that you want. That's really the very minimum of where you start to feel a little bit tougher, where you start dying less, doing all that stuff. So anyways, I am Mounty Curl, and for all of us here at Gun Brothers Gaming, I want to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you once again in the underground. Agent out.